We should probably put some disclaimers at the beginning of this.
We'll lead with the disclaimers because I feel like in one of our episodes we just like scattered them throughout, and sometimes it's good to put them at the beginning. Welcome back to another episode of Sessions for the Soul.
Yes, welcome back. I'm so excited to dive into this episode. I think it will fall in line and maybe some of those other episodes we've done that are confrontational in the sense of like maybe they hit an edge for people, or I realized that was kind of far away, so hopefully that came through. But these conversations can like hit an edge for people or maybe bring up some like discomfort and in this topic as we like dive into it. But we did a poll the other day on Instagram, and we kind of asked like what would be interesting to hear about, and kind of the results really leaned toward this episode about the problem with therapy culture in the modern world. And so today we're going to dive right into that. And we should probably put some disclaimers at the beginning of this.
We'll lead with the disclaimers because I feel like in one of our episodes we just like scattered them throughout, and sometimes it's good to put them at the beginning. Number one, we've both been to therapy at different times in our life, and we'll be in therapy again in the future, I'm sure. And
Absolutely.
we are big supporters of therapy. Like, it's so helpful to actually go to someone who is trained to sit with you and witness what you're going through, offer outside perspective, give you guidance in the areas that you need guidance on, call you out sometimes on some of your shitty behaviors or whatever that looks like. So
yes,
we love therapy.
We love therapy. Therapy has saved my life more than once, So we are not saying therapy is bad in this.
In any way. And in fact, like this is kind of what we're going to get into, but like don't substitute our podcast or things online for therapy. Like if you are struggling, please find someone to see. There's so many resources out there that can be so helpful, and we don't want to contribute to the stigma around therapy, because I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people, is the stigma around mental health and emotional health and going to actually see a therapist. And I think it's just so valuable to actually be vulnerable enough to say like, I need help, and to actually go find someone to walk that path with you. So we wanted to put that disclaimer at the beginning before we dive into some, I guess, maybe controversial topics, but just some things that we're seeing on the internet, the people that we engage with, the people we work with, things like that, just some of the overall themes, and just from listening to other, experts or professionals in the field as well, just some things that they're also noticing with the people that they work with. So one of the things that we wanted to start with was over therapizing everyday life.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot, and a lot of these are going to tie back to like what we see in the online space, because truly like, and I know we just really drill this
all the time, every episode,
but life has changed so much in the last 10 years or so, where we have so much information available online, and so that starts to kind of like skew the perspectives that we have on different things. One of them being everything's trauma these days. Everyone's traumatized by everything, and what that's doing is it's like diluting the actual like true meaning of trauma. And I think we've talked in previous episodes about the concept of like big T's versus little T's and things like that. But in the online space, and we're both probably guilty of it too, just in everyday life, of being like, oh, that's so traumatizing for me, or oh my gosh, that's my PTSD, or whatever it is. And what that can do, unfortunately, is just like it loses the meaning of like the true sense of trauma, and it starts to create like confusion around like, wait, what is that? What is trauma? And fill in the blank, by the way, for like anything here. We also have, anxiety on here as an example of like, anytime you feel a little anxious, it's like, oh, it's my anxiety disorder, or, oh, I can't do that because I'm just an anxious mess all the time. Instead of being able to look at it through the lens of like, it's actually like the human experience to be anxious sometimes. And that doesn't mean that you have an anxiety disorder necessarily. Like we don't have to self-diagnose all the time.
Right. And I think, you know, something that is coming to mind is like experiencing an emotion and or moving through something. That's the human experience. That is part of it, right? Like we experience things, and when we let those emotions or those experiences define us, that's actually like a little problematic. Now, maybe you're listening to this and you do have like severe anxiety. That is so valid. And I want to say that,
Yes.
like, I mean, we're probably going to be like over doing it this episode with like validating in that way, because I think it is like a slippery slope to talk about these issues, or it can be highly controversial. But understanding that like when we like really unpack and live in an experience is when it becomes more damaging than actually like processing, moving through, and having the opportunity to um learn and gain like the lesson and the insight that the experience is providing, because there is always a lesson and insight. There's always something to overcome. Like it's that phrase of like the only way out is through. The only way out of your anxiety is through your anxiety. The only way out of your, you know, I'm
Mhm.
trauma or whatever it is, right, is like through processing the experience and through moving through it, right? And so again, like Kayla mentioned too, is like there are very real traumas that
Mhm.
like can really deeply affect and determine the outcome and the circumstances that you experience on a day-to-day basis, and whether that be anxiousness or deeper experiences from trauma, and what that big T looked like, right? Or little t, and how it impacts you. We totally understand that. We're human too. We have those things that inform our behavior, right?
Mhm.
But um this is more of a like this is more of a thought-provoking conversation, I think, on our behalf, for just getting people to consider like, where in my life am I over identifying or like letting something define me that ultimately is just like part of the human experience, or an
Mhm.
emotion, or a thing that is very much like part of
Mhm.
being human and being alive and living life and learning and growing. And how does social media, our culture,
Mhm.
perpetuate some of these issues through like therapy, or through you know, I would say like Western
Mhm.
based like healing. Especially because, I mean, not to just dive into this, but like like in the Western world, we want to treat symptoms, not conditions. That is how the pharmaceutical industry is successful. I'm going to like go down. I'm fucking
We're doing
going in.
it.
Kayla's probably sweating right now. I'm so fucking sorry. That is how the pharmaceutical industry is what it
Mhm.
is. That is how we are what we are today. I'm
Mhm.
so sorry if that's uncomfortable for you. It's reality. Follow the
Mhm.
money trail, look into it.
Mhm.
Look who owns your medication and the things that they support, the things that they fund. Follow the money trail and you will, whoa,
Mhm.
this is crazy. So I'm the one that just leaned into that. I'm so sorry. But Western healing is really designed to like keep us in a loop in a lot of ways. And that's why we find that's like where the pocket of social media where you see these people who like, you know, 180 their lives and are like, I did this, I went to the school, I was all on the path and I was all into this life and I was deeply unhappy. And one day I lit a match on it all. And I went to Costa Rica for 6 months and I learned this, and this. And I started doing this, and this. And I'm happier than I've ever been. And it turns out I actually didn't have this and that, or I didn't need the medication, or I didn't need the thing. I needed to like get into my life and get into me and care for my
Yes.
soul. And
Mhm.
you guys, I get it. Like it's controversial to say that, but I've also like lived it and I also understand it. Like, um, so that's where like a little bit more, it can be uncomfortable to consider these thoughts, especially when some of these things have helped us really survive, which is understandable. We're hardwired to survive. And so like no disrespect on anybody who's like maybe walking down that path right now, or like, you know, is on medication or it's helping you with a season of life.
Mm-hmm.
do you, baby, like do what's
Mm-hmm.
best to support what you need to do. And also we're gonna just
We're calling it out. We're calling some of these things out.
out. We
I was
are.
thinking about the DSM-5, which for those who aren't familiar, that's like how you it's a diagnostic statistical manual that you diagnose mental health with, and substance use disorders, behavioral disorders, things like that. And so um, that's part of like the western world, and so many providers actually hate that model, but you have to use it. You're kind of like a slave to the process because that's how you bill insurance. And working in the industry for a long time, I understand like the inner workings of that process of you have to diagnose in order to treat. If you're using insurance, if it's, private pay, it might be a little bit different, but the point is that that's part of the system. That's part of what's happening with the system of like over diagnosing, over labeling, over therapizing or pathologizing situations or symptoms, is because providers are often kind of pushed into a corner of, if you're going to treat this person, they need a diagnosis. And so you go in and you're like, I feel like a little anxious sometimes, or whatever the symptoms are, right? And sure, maybe you do have an anxiety disorder. Maybe you meet the criteria for the cluster of symptoms that relate to that. But also, there's a lot of the pressure to put a label on it. And then what happens to a lot of people is they start to, like you mentioned, over identify with the diagnosis, and it starts to consume their life instead of being able to look at, like, what are the actual environmental things around me that are contributing to the anxiety that I'm having. I hate my job. The relationship I'm in sucks. I hate where I live. The house doesn't feel comfortable for me. The community is not for me. Like, whatever it is, there can be so many external things or other circumstances that are contributing to the emotional or mental health experience that you're having. And it can be really easy to just, slap a label on it and then start to just identify with that thing, and to not actually make holistic changes within your life. And so that's, I guess, kind of where we're going with that one, is we want to like over pathologize everyday life. And that's, I think, a dangerous trap to fall into. And again, if it's helpful for you to have a diagnosis, amazing. And if you love your provider that you're working with, amazing. Like, those are not bad things.
Right, right, right. Like,
But there's the other side to this too.
absolutely. And like, I love that you said that of like, the just having to really like, we're encouraged to diagnose things and like, okay, these are the symptoms, so we symptom treat. We don't actually like root cause treat. And when we, like you mentioned, the root causes, like what are the root causes of these symptoms? Like, yeah, okay, I'm anxious, I'm unhappy, I'm this, I'm that. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what are the root causes? Because if you actually go and dive into the root cause, your life will change. Like, it really will. And again, like, we we really, I mean, we're approaching this with gentle hands, because we do understand. And I think it can be really hard. It can be circumstantial in this world. A lot of us don't have a lot of choice, whether that's financially, whether that's what's available to us, or our community, our support team, like our family, like who is in our network or our circle to help us achieve what we need to achieve. Because I get it. It's not always practical to quit the job. It's not always,
Mm-hmm.
um, you might have other people depending on you financially or whatever that like keep you in these patterns, which I totally understand and have empathy for. And also, like, I'm just going to ask the question. I don't know what the answer is for everyone, and it all could be individually different. But the question I have around that is that true, or is that what we have to continue to prescribe to that narrative in order to keep the current
Mm-hmm.
systems in place afloat? Or does my brain feel safer clinging to those truths, or that narrative? So I'm just gonna like insert that question there, because I don't know, I
Mm-hmm.
would get curious with it and see where it leads.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what, like, also, I think you and I can both speak to this in a way that, like, yes, like this, we're going to focus on therapy culture here, but it also speaks to a greater cultural issue because
Yeah.
we've walked out of it and we've, quit the job and like sort of abandoned maybe some more traditional paths because like ultimately like no matter what way we tried to walk down them or pose them or um however we like tried to change the perspective or come at it from a different angle, like it all led to the same experience and the same outcome. And I think when you do that and you've like troubleshooted, like, okay, we tried this, we tried that, we tried this. Okay, now we are trying that. And it all ultimately like, you know, leads to the same kind of circle. You're only left with like really a couple options. And so when you get to that place where you're like, okay, I guess really like what I have to do is walk away, or I have to like dismantle this belief or quit the job or do the thing and like take the chance. When you've walked that, that's when I think a lot of things can open up. So just like an interesting perspective to consider with that. And I think like the rise of like social media and like pop psychology, like as
Yeah.
we kind of it's like the it's like the pop culture side of psychology. It's like the like trending, what's trending, right?
Yes.
Like a
Yeah.
lot of these things have become very trendy. It's oh man, like I've been going to therapy on and off since I was in third grade. That was what, 2003? I think so. We were
I don't know. I guess.
It was 2003, I think.
Yeah.
Just doing some like basic math.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were like in kindergarten in 2000. What were we in kindergarten 2000? Yeah, 2001. Yeah. So 2003-ish, like second grade maybe, I started third grade going to therapy. And this was like still early in the culture. Like it was not what it is today. It was not what it is today. Like I remember having multiple family members like mad at my mom that she was like sending her kids to
Mm,
therapy. Um
that's wild.
which is crazy. But my mom was like, well, there's alcoholism like running rampant in our house. Like someone needs to help these kids and it can't be me, because she was also struggling with her own thing and she didn't have the tools. So, um, like I feel like as a kid, like getting that education really young, I was like 8 years old, learning these words like that have been part of my vernacular, like in my field since I was 8. And now I'm,
Mm-hmm.
almost 30. Um, now those words are everywhere. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
hashtags, actually. You can click on the hashtag and see a million posts about
Mm-hmm.
those words, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's anxiety, codependency, whatever it is. Fight or flight, like these are things that like before you had to like go actually seek out a professional who went to school for a long time to like be educated to talk to you about that. And no disrespect to providers out there, because like
Yeah.
I get it, I went to life coach school, like I didn't go get my doctorate, I didn't go to a 4 year, I totally
Mm-hmm.
get it. And I'm not shitting on that,
Mm-hmm.
but I am calling into question the integrity of some of these things when like because of the over education and the over like availability of like pop psychology on social media,
Mm-hmm.
um there are a lot of people who are not actually qualified and didn't go to the life coach school or didn't go to the get the like the actual like certification or training, who are posing themselves as experts online.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that also contributes to this like problem.
Yeah, I think what happens is like, again, amazing that we have like the accessibility to learn about these things in such an easy way, but unfortunately I think a lot of people don't use discernment to see like, who is this person that's putting out this content, what's their life experience, what's their potential bias on the situation, because we don't get that context on social media. Do they have any training or anything, what's the context behind it? And maybe I can look at some other opinions. Most of us don't use social media like that to actually like go through and fact check or to look at the nuance and other
Research.
perspective. Yeah, to actually research the issue that you're looking into. And so great that it's available, but the lack of discernment I think is a big issue. And also, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, you have like a very short window of time to get your point across. And so even the people who are qualified and who maybe have that doctorate and are like amazing people and providers, they have such a short amount of time to get their point across. And so it's like, this example here of like, if you do these three things, you probably have fill in the blank diagnosis, right? PTSD, anxiety, OCD, whatever it is. And so and I'm probably guilty of that too on my own page of like, here's a list of potential things, and if this resonates with you, follow me for more information, right? And so it's a
Absolutely.
quick
Same.
way. Yeah, it's a super quick way, and unfortunately it's like uh really kind of the only way to reach people if you're trying to subscribe to or work with the algorithm, right? And so using discernment to be able to look at that information and not to use that to self-diagnose, to label yourself, to take it on as your identity just because so and so influencer said it, to use it as like a replacement for therapy of like, oh, okay, now I know that this account talks about this thing and I probably have this diagnosis and they're going to give me a few skills to use every once in a while. Like that will never, ever replace sitting in a room with someone, or I guess at this point, doing like telehealth therapy, if that's something that is more accessible for people, where someone is actually going to get to know you and your situation, the context in which you live in, and to work with you in a way that's going to be individualized. And so that's part of the issue here is just like the oversimplification. Most people don't use social media in a way of like doing the research and discernment. And so that's where things get a little dicey on social media for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like once we identify with something, it's like, oh, there it is. And we can like box it up and
Yep.
it feels safe for our brains, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so totally understanding that like this is not like there's no fault in how we are engaging as humans with it,
Mm-hmm.
but having the conversation and like the only way we can ever like approach something differently or try to be different, right, is to have the awareness. And so I think that like that's one of our hopes from this episode is to kind of help people maybe just again like just consider some of this,
Mm-hmm.
and not to say that like you guys could listen to this and be like, I don't resonate with any of this. I find this incredibly uncomfortable or like problematic or whatever. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's space for that. And we don't think you should take everything we say as like Bible, as
Mm-hmm.
like this is factual, right? We're just like bringing in these perspectives as people who are part of that community. Like, oh my gosh, there have been so many things I've made that's like if you do this, this, and this, or if you whatever, like you're codependent or you have low self-worth. And um I don't know that. I don't know the people watching my
Mm-hmm.
videos who resonate with that. Like, I don't know the whole context of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know most of them at
Yeah.
all. And so, um, it's an interesting thing being, I think this is also like why initially, like we've talked about before, we created a podcast
Yes.
because we want to we hope to find like the people that do resonate with this, but be able to give more context than the 3 second to whatever second video,
Mm-hmm.
to actually like really help people connect on a deeper level and understand on a deeper level than just like the TikTok that's like in okay, let's be real, designed like the way that the algorithm works and the way that like engagement works is like people are not going to engage with the boring factual like long drug out,
Yeah.
right, like reality. They're
Yeah.
going to engage with the thing that like either really really resonates, sparks fear, or
Yep.
sparks like a discomfort or controversial experience for them, the
Mm-hmm.
thought provoking thing. And we have 10 seconds at most to really get that across. And so a lot of content is quite you know
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of meant to do that, like to kind of create confusion.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do here is just like invite that curiosity and the ability to be like, as you navigate being in the online space and utilizing the amazing resources and information that we have, but utilizing it in a way that you're using discernment and questioning maybe the integrity of the information, and just using it wisely. I think because, and again, we're saying this from a place of like we are literally in it. We are in the cycle that is creating this unfortunate reality of like you have to put out information that is very quickly consumed, it's easily digestible, and unfortunately when you're doing that, it creates a lot of confusion. You're of course missing information even in these podcasts that are an hour long. Like of course we can't cover all the nuance, but we're
Right.
doing our best. And so yeah, it just gets a little tricky. I was thinking about a while back, I was considering, I started a Substack and was like writing some blogs just to kind of see like what the process would be like. And I've since abandoned it, but it's too much to balance.
Been there.
But I did this, I was writing on how personality is like it's like a result of our survival and attachment and how we adapted to our environment growing up. And I'm just calling myself out here right now. Like, yes, that's true, but also like why can't we all just have a personality these days? Like why do we have to say like, oh, they're this way because of this family dynamic or this trauma that may have happened, or oh, that's probably why they're that way. Like we want to over analyze every little thing instead of being like, oh, they're just a little quirky, or she's just a little more introverted, or she has a big amazing beautiful personality.
Girl, you know what? You're touching on something that I've been confronting in my own life a lot recently, in that like when we are over intellectualizing or we've like over educated in a way on something, um it actually, especially in dynamics that don't feel good, or like, whether that's like a dysfunctional family or whatever, right? Like whatever that is, a relationship, a friendship, whatever. What can happen is like you're not able to see that person subjectively anymore, and you're actually not able to, like, for me specifically, like when it has come to my family dynamics with codependency, this has been a place where I have had to take a step back because I actually love these people deeply and I have so much love for them.
Yeah.
And if every single time they show up in a way that, yeah, I find it incredibly fucking annoying that we can't get past this, or that is manipulative emotionally, or whatever it is. Um, if that's what like my brain is fixated on, I'm no longer allowed to like, I'm no longer allowing myself to appreciate or love this person. And
Mm-hmm.
like humanity, compassion, um, you know, and this is what's true for me and my relationship with my parents and my family. Like, this is not, I'm not, everyone has a different experience and walks a different path. If you have a different reality and you have found that like
Mm-hmm.
you can't have that relationship in your life, that is, and that's what's best for you, I 100% respect and validate that. For me, like, I want a relationship with these people. I want them in my life. I love them.
Yep.
And so if all the time, that every time something happens, I'm like you're doing this again because you're codependent, because your mom didn't do this when she was a kid, and now we're all fucked in the head because you couldn't go do
Yeah.
the work and go to therapy, like whatever, then I'm not able to enjoy my family.
Yep.
And that has 100% happened for me at one point or another, where I had to like be like, whoa,
Yep.
what am I doing? Is this serving? Like,
Yeah.
is this what's my desired outcome in a relationship here? What do I want that to look like? And not to say that like it's up to one person to do the work. No, there
No.
has to be reciprocity, and there obviously has to be like some boundary and awareness on whatever that looks like, and it's nuanced, it's not black and white at all. And so like I have that awareness in my field, and it's kind of become this thing where it's like, and like, you know what, I can recognize that maybe this person that I love deeply doesn't have the capacity for that. And from there, I get to determine what boundaries
Mm-hmm.
then get implemented, or what that relationship looks like in the space it holds in my life. But I cannot like have the magnifying glass out, or like every single time they do something that falls in line with that, like
Mm-hmm.
that behavioral pattern or that personality or that like thing because of X, Y, and Z, like to point it out. That's like one, a disservice to me and the relationship. And two, like, uh, especially for mothers, and I'm speaking from experience, like I feel like this is a place where I have been really like this has damaged my mom and my relationship
Right.
because she feels over criticized and she feels like a terrible mom. Like she feels like she really
Mm-hmm.
fucked the whole thing up. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just like pointing out X, Y, and Z, but like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? That's where
Yeah.
it gets so muddy
Mm-hmm.
and we're not allowing one another
Mm-hmm.
to just simply like be
Mm-hmm.
and you know, because like my mom is a wonderful person
Sure.
and
Yeah.
she's lovely and she's kooky and silly. She's like a kid in so many ways, but like when I was so fixated on this information and like this is why I am this way and it's like looking for fault or blame in it
Mm-hmm.
almost.
Yeah, it's like we start really trying to search for it.
Yeah.
Any evidence we can find, and we're like, oh, this is the word for that. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's both and like the holding this, the having space for like the duality of like, yes, I can recognize, like in this specific example of like, I can recognize there's codependent patterns. There just are. And I recognize I really love my family. And there are certain dynamics here. I love how close we are. I love how much time we spend together, or how I can call them at any time for whatever I need and they'll be there. Like there's space for both of it. And
Mhm.
that's the danger. I think you highlighted it so well of like if we are so hyper focused on the diagnostics of it and the pathology of it and the therapy language behind it, like we're missing out on some relationships with people around us that we love, with a relationship with ourselves. Like it just becomes really, really damaging. So that's, I think, what we're trying to highlight here. The other thing that we wanted to talk about was excusing toxicity with therapy language. And this again is when you find words online that you're like, oh, that's what this person has. It's codependency. It's they're a narcissist. They're a, anxious attachment or avoidant attachment. Whatever it is, borderline personality, like whatever the
Yeah,
case,
like literally we could just name
we
every.
can go down the list, right? Whatever the diagnosis is or the label, you can start to use that as like it's like putting blinders on almost, where instead of just seeing something for what it is, it's like no, they're actually just like treating you like shit. Maybe they do have a diagnosis, maybe they had a shitty childhood, but that doesn't excuse the way that they're treating you in this romantic relationship, this family relationship, this work environment. Like, you know, we I think can fall into that, and I definitely see this in the online space of where you just want to like reduce it to, oh, that's because of their childhood trauma. That's why they treat me this way. And it's like, yeah, but are we going to just like excuse that?
Right.
Like we can't just do that. And again, it's one of those both and situations of yes, of course we can recognize like, you know, someone's attachment style developed this way and it is hard for them to be in a relationship, or they had a really traumatic upbringing and it is hard for them to connect in XYZ way or to feel safe in this way. And you have to be able to know, you know, where your boundaries lie and what your expectations are, and to recognize like that may have happened in the past or this is what has influenced this. But now as an adult, we get to make these decisions that influence how I'm going to move forward and relate to people now. So
Absolutely. And you know, I think like what's coming to mind too as you like are talking about this is the like phrase, it's not like what happened to you is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to do something like to you're an adult now. It's your responsibility to like learn how to work
yeah,
with it and like be part of the real world and not be an abusive or like shitty human.
yeah,
And one thing that I think can be really hard because we're human and we love like deeply is accepting people for like not what they tell us, but what they show us, what they give us. Words are words. I can tell you all day that I'm all of these
Mm-hmm.
things, but how am I showing up? And then two, like someone saying like this is just who I am or this I'm this way because of X, Y, and Z or like it is what it is. Like that's a them issue and that I personally know people who have experienced horrible, horrible things in life
Yeah.
as kids, as whatever, and are incredible adults
Mm-hmm.
and have done a lot of work to make sure that how they show up in adulthood is not how they learn to show up, is not perpetuating a cycle. I know cycle breakers, right? And that's where it's like, we can have so much empathy and compassion and love for someone and still be able to say, but this behavior is unacceptable. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not our how they treat us or how they show up or what they do is not about us, it's about them. And I think that's one of the hardest lessons to learn as a codependency like, you know, expert.
Mm-hmm.
um and someone who struggles with codependency even in teaching it, like it's
Mm-hmm.
not like I like learned how to work with codependency and then mine just evaporated. Hello.
Yeah.
I wish, babe. No, I'm like still on that train every day. Are you kidding me? What?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, at the root of that being like so much self-worth, like doubt. Um, I still experience this. I still find myself in dynamics and relationships that it's like, fuck, like, this
Mm-hmm.
is so hard. I love this person so much. But, like, wait, am I going to kill myself if am I going to deny myself these things I desire so deeply in my life because, like, I see their potential?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I, I hope not. I hope not. I hope every time I choose me, obviously there are times where it's like, oh, walk down that path again. Oops, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when we have the awareness to turn around and walk away. And I think that like sometimes when we do over normalize these like toxic behaviors because of what we are learning on social media or, you know, whether that be with someone in our lives or ourselves, if we have the toxic behavior,
Yeah.
um, that is where like this can become like really problematic. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a therapist who's willing to say to you, like, so this is what I'm noticing, or like, I hear you talk about this and I'm seeing that you're doing this with that, and like,
Yeah.
kind of like hold up the mirror that we need because really that's what therapy should be, or a therapist that's willing to say, like, so this is what your partner is doing. This is what it actually is, or your friend or your parent or your child or whatever. Like this is what that actually is and call it out. Um, you should get a different therapist.
If you use AI like ChatGPT and the process of like, it's always affirming everything you put in there, like your idea is amazing, you're always on the right track, but here's how we can maybe do it a little bit better, but you're amazing, you're a star. If your therapist is like that, run.
No, literally get a different therapist.
And there's no harm in firing your therapist and finding someone who's actually going to call you out sometimes lovingly and professionally, whatever, but to call you out sometimes and to, like you said, like to put up the mirror and say, like, let's look at this, like, let's really look at these patterns that you're in. If they're not willing to do that, like that's really concerning because like you're not actually working through things in a way that's going to like number one get to the root of like some of these patterns, but to also push you in the right direction. I know just for myself when I was in therapy toward the beginning of our marriage, there were things that I would bring up and my therapist would be like, excuse me. Sometimes it would just be like the look she would give me about like something that I was sharing that I was doing that I didn't necessarily want to be doing, but like I had just all these patterns and anxiety around different things. And it was so helpful for me to hear that, to just have like that look or someone to question and be like, no, like let's do something different. Let's
Yeah,
actually change some behaviors here.
absolutely. Like that really is the power, of therapy. I think and where it works great is like having someone help us move through and see our own, because we can't grow past something or grow through something if we're not willing to like take ownership for our own role in it. And we all have
Hmm.
a role in it, whether we want to
Hmm.
recognize that or not. And exactly, like, I'm reflecting on like, as you were saying that, just like so many times where I've had a therapist or even a coach say like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, I had this one coach, you guys, this is amazing. She was just like balls to the wall, ready to like be like, no, like you're doing this. This is self-sabotage. This is your behavior. And she would just like call it out all day long. Like there were times where she was like, I get it, you're crying, you're like in pain right now. So I'm gonna like touch this gently. But most of the time she'd be like, yeah, we've talked about this like 3 times. You're either going to make the choice and make the change, or you're going to continue to perpetuate. Like, what do you want to do?
Hmm.
And I needed her so bad in my life when I
Hmm.
had her, because she made me like step into things that without that experience, I never would have done,
Hmm.
made certain choices and gotten to like advance in my life the way that I have. And um that's what's powerful about it, right? It's like
Yeah.
someone walking the path with us and helping us really like change, because what we can't change is other people.
Hmm.
What we can't do is make someone else do the work that they don't want to do for themselves.
Yeah.
All we can do is our own work
Yeah.
and keep our side of the street clean. And you know someone once said to me like, loving them harder won't make them change. um
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, well, you could have just punched me in the face. That's great. Because I think a lot of the time we think it's our responsibility as humans, or we feel that obligation of like
Yeah.
not abandoning someone or not walking away or whatever. But, you know, I really love just the insight of being able to, for both of us to share that, like, yeah, we've had those people say, like, hey, like, this is problematic. Like, this is,
Yeah.
you know, this is part of the cycle. This is perpetuating the cycle. And until you work on X, Y, and Z, like,
Yeah.
how is the cycle going to change? Because you can't change them.
Hmm.
So, baby, what's your role in it?
Yeah, ugh, it's so hard, but so good to work through. That
Yeah.
I think ties into this next concept of like over identifying with the labels or diagnoses that you're receiving. So, like, if you, whether it be self diagnosing or even going to the doctor or therapist or whatever, and you receive a diagnosis because you meet criteria and you are struggling with something in your life, sometimes there can be like this over identification with it where it becomes like your whole personality. And what that might look like is like you're always the person who's just like, oh, I'm just surviving, like I'm in survival mode, or I'm just an anxious mess all the time. This is just who I am. Like, this is my whole personality that I'm taking on. And by the way, fill in the blank with whatever symptom or diagnosis or label. But that can be, again, problematic because you start to take that on as like who you are. Like, it becomes ingrained into who you are, how people start to view you, the lens in which you see the world, how you connect with your kids, your spouse, your friends, your family, your work. It's problematic.
Oh my gosh. I just saw you're like touching on something. Honestly, did you post this? Wait. I'm like, wait a second. I don't know if you did, but tell me if you did when I start to explain this. But like, I just saw something the other day that maybe I heard it on a podcast. I don't know. There's so much information. You see, my brain is fried.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was about how actually like what we focus on determines our experience, essentially. Like where our focus goes determines like the experience that we have, more so than the experience itself. So if we're focusing on the anxiousness,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be anxious.
For
If
sure.
we're like the reason it came into like my mind, and when I was like thinking about it, is I was thinking about how I've like been in this cycle for many years of like having a lot of heartbreak and like carrying this heartbreak and this grief with me, right? And how it's like part of who I am. It's like my personality is like partially this grief. And when I heard this concept, I was like, oh, because I focus on it and I like carry it and I nurture it, and this grief, like, it feels good. Like there's a part
Mm-hmm.
of me that actually like gets satisfaction out of grieving. And it was a really interesting, like, it must have been a podcast about, um, you know what? It might have been that guy that wrote that book you were reading.
Oh,
Gabor
Gabor Mate.
Mate. Girl, I don't know his name. He's real cute. He really is. Um, he's very wise. He's very wise. And he was on a podcast sharing, because it might be from his book. He's like a little old man.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about like how really like the psychological effects of like our focus and what we are like spending our time focusing on informing our reality and our experience. And so like in the sense of like over identification or focus, like that's kind of where like that will become our reality, you know, if that's like if that's where our hyper focus is going, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
what we're picking up and running with, as opposed to like, I have anxiety doesn't have me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I heard some where like when we say I experience this as opposed to I have it or I am it,
Yeah.
and how like subtly in the subconscious that like makes a huge shift. So being able to say like I experience anxiety sometimes, or
Mm-hmm.
I experience depression. I've experienced heartbreak, like for myself,
Mm-hmm.
shifting it from that thing of like, this is my reality, like I'm heartbroken, to
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced heartbreak. Like I've experienced that grief and that pain and I've carried it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like that's part of who I am, and part of my, what I have gone through on this human experience, but it's not my entire reality. And so how we can hold those,
Mm-hmm.
hold that, like just reframing it can like kind of create that ease.
Such a simple reframe in language and in like how you're thinking about the thing. Uh, in addiction counseling at some point, I think it's like within the last 5 years or so, where instead of referring to people in recovery as addicts, like, oh, they're an addict, or I'm an alcoholic, changing the language to a person with a substance use disorder or a person with fill in the blank. And that again is creating the distinction of they are not what they have as a diagnosis. It's part of them, it's something they're experiencing currently, but it's not their whole identity. And like you were saying about grief, sometimes when we take on an identity, it can be helpful to look at, and we've talked about this in this episode a little bit, in other episodes, of what is the payoff of that? Am I getting a payoff of over identifying with and taking on this diagnosis or this symptom or this label that I've given myself or have been given as my whole personality? What am I getting from that, if
Mm.
anything? So like grief is maybe a relatable one for people, because if you're over identifying with that and it's like who you are and it becomes, just something that you're kind of always in, it's preventing you from creating new connections and getting into other meaningful relationships, which sometimes that feels really safe. Like
Oh,
it prevents future heartbreak or future rejection,
oh,
or like
absolutely.
there's so many payoffs. And again, like maybe it's not grief for you, but maybe it's anxiety, depression, whatever it is.
OCD, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. ADHD, baby.
Yeah.
Like over identifying with those things, it's like, honestly, controversial. It's a permission slip for shitty behavior.
Oh, that's good.
I'm so fucking sorry that I said that, you guys,
No, that's good.
but it's true. And like I'm like partially calling myself out here, because like, you know, a big part of codependency is that victim mindset. Like I'm not worthy of love because of all of these things. And so like to like be married to my grief and married to my heartbreak
Mm-hmm.
just affirms that I'm the victim and that I can't have love because look at what happened.
Yeah.
And, I was vulnerable and I like did this thing and now this was the outcome. And I'm going to just carry that for the rest of my life so that one, like you said, closing yourself off, and two, like, it's like it's confirmation bias. I'm confirming my reality every day
Yeah.
through that. And it's shitty. Like I show up, oh my God, you guys, there's times where when I'm in that phase of like really in touch with like right now, I'm super in touch with my grief right now because I'm actively going through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My heart is hurting. I'm having a really hard time in my relationship, and I'm moving through this. And um like the story, like I cannot tell you how hard it is as a codependent person when, or a person who experiences codependency. Let me hold myself accountable right now. Okay. When my family, when the people I love are saying things to me like, it's going to be okay. You're going to move through this. You deserve X, Y, and Z. This is not permanent. Like you'll find the right thing. It will come, how
Yeah.
my brain is like, you're fucking wrong. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and my brain just wants to be like, no, 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 no. You're wrong. Don't tell me I'll meet somebody. Don't tell me I'll find love. Don't tell me I deserve better because my brain is like comfortable in this place.
Yeah.
And then I show up so like, oh my God, I'm like Eeyore. Yesterday I ran into someone and they were like, you look so fucking sad. And I literally was like,
Oh
I
no.
was like, yeah, I want to go. I was like, I literally am so sad. I want to, I'll not get this flagged for problematic sentences, but I said some real dramatic shit. Okay. And,
Mm-hmm.
like afterward, I like sat there and I was like, God, that was terrible. I can't believe I just said that to this person. And
Mm-hmm.
I also was like, ew, like I just went down this path of like, I can't believe I said that. One, it's not entirely true. Two, like dramatic much, write a 5-act play about this.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. And then three, like, ew, is that how I want to carry myself through the world, regardless of my pain? Is that how I want to show up? And is that what I want to leave? Ew,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning I woke up to a text message from that person that was like, I'm sending like love and positivity your way. I'm like so sorry you're struggling. And I was like, gosh, thank you. And like, I'm so sorry that I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
to be an adult human and carry myself through the world and that I let my emotional experience dictate like the moment. I'm so sorry. And the reality is that's really shitty behavior and that's a me issue that I need to do the work on. That is nobody else's responsibility. That's not the people I love's responsibility to me to deny them what they see in me, And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's like where that permission slip for shitty behavior comes in. It's like whatever the behavior or the pattern is, like you actually have a role in it and you get to decide if you participate in the pattern or if you step out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not just for everyone listening. Like I'm saying this to myself as well. I literally shared one of our previous clips the other day that you posted.
I saw
And I
that.
literally was like, and sometimes, because I was like, sometimes, and there was like a long pause. And as I watched it, I was like, sometimes I need to listen to myself. My gosh, I'm wise. And I'm out here just like self sabotaging my
The
life.
way I'm thinking, like, some of these would be good clips for this weekend. But
Right?
okay, the next, just a couple other quick things on this topic is consumerism in wellness, in the mental health space, in the psychology space. And uh, we're a very consumerism based culture. And we've touched on this a little bit in the past. But it's interesting in the wellness space because it feels in some ways like so counterintuitive, but
Mm.
it's working. Like people want a quick fix. And so you sell the products, the drinks, the supplements, the devices that are going to be so transformative and life changing for you. You sell the courses, the blah, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to fall again into that trap of I'm going to buy this thing that's going to cure this symptom, or that's going to replace therapy, or replace me actually sitting with my own emotions and like being in the experience and moving through it. And what it becomes, I think, is just kind of a way to, number one, intellectualize the whole process, to outsource the whole process of healing, and to also not actually experience whatever it is that you're experiencing, because you're like, this thing is going to help me. I'm going to feel good if I take this supplement or drink this thing, or I don't know, sit on this vibration plate or whatever the fuck it is that you're using. Like, and let me say, amazing. If those things are like helpful for you, like they can be a tool. But the point I think here is that it becomes a way of outsourcing the entire thing instead of actually like working through some of this. You're like, this one thing is going to cure it all, and I'm not going to have to deal with this.
Yeah, it's like another form of avoidance, right?
Yeah,
Like then having to,
absolutely.
like that's what it
Yeah.
is. And it's so weird because when you buy stuff, like the dopamine that comes from
Mm-hmm.
purchase, like it's like a whole,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like I'm like, whoo, questioning reality right now. Um like, wait a second. Um, what's really funny is I just want to be like, and on that note, buy our course. No, I'm just kidding.
We're not doing that.
We're not
So.
doing that, please. But like it's funny because it's a reality of like what we do as work, right? Like we obviously put stuff out there and we're not saying that there isn't valuable courses or valuable
Yeah.
workbooks or what like products whatever, but like we were having a conversation before we started this, just kind of touching on what we wanted to talk about a little bit. And one of the things that came up is like, a lot of these like quick fixes, like are we qualifying them for like something we actually want, or like do the values align with like what we actually are trying to do, or like what is this product actually like qualified to do, and is that in line with like what I'm needing, what I'm wanting,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so one of those things being like like whether it's like a supplement or like this like a gummy vitamin that's going to like take your anxiety away or whatever, like is this product actually full of nutrients, or is it just like sugar and whatever? And did I qualify the person that manufactured this? Did I read the ingredients list? Did I research the coach?
Mm-hmm.
And does that coach's values align with mine? Do I really
Mm-hmm.
like believe in their message and what they're saying? And so like I think part of it is like qualifying the person
Yeah.
you're consuming from.
And using that discernment. Again, like it's amazing all these things are available, but or and use your discernment and
Yeah,
actually qualify the person and look into like, is there integrity behind this thing that I'm being sold? Because that's the whole thing here, is like the marketing and the consumerism and how things are targeting certain audiences. And so it can be really easy to just find yourself in a pattern of always wanting to buy the next thing that's being marketed to you. And again, it can be a really helpful tool, but if you're putting everything into that and using it as a way to just avoid actually working through something, like, is it really serving its purpose, or is it just perpetuating the issue?
absolutely. I love that. And we could probably do a whole other episode on like this topic, but as I think you and I can like speak to, like if you're a person who's like um in the coaching space like we both are, and like in this online space, like there are moments where I think imposter syndrome shows up so hard for me personally, because it's like, well, hold on, wait a second. Like, what makes me the most qualified or more qualified? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
is this the best offer for people to like actually heal? Or am I like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that like the fact that we ask those questions and like get down on the ground with that actually is like what I would rather have, a coach who like moves through that
Yeah.
than the coach that's like, I threw this whole thing together. Like I chat GPT'd my way through it, and it's gonna change your life.
Yeah.
No disrespect to those coaches. Love you guys. But
But they're everywhere,
they're
and it's a
everywhere.
big green flag to actually like question and like make sure, like really want to put like your heart into something and believe in something that you're putting out there.
Yeah. And like, what is this in service to? Like, what am I in service to? And is this product, is this coaching, whatever, is this ceremony, workshop, whatever it is, in service to that? And if it's
Mm-hmm.
not in service to that, maybe reevaluate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love that, that you said all of that. And I think exactly like you said, like really getting clear on what the outcome you're looking for is and how these can be great tools. And your toolbox doesn't have to, our toolboxes should have a lot of different, things that facilitate wellness, not like this is the magic. It's like this is the magic pill.
Yeah.
This is the magic solution. That's not reality.
Yeah, that's I think how a lot of things are
Framed.
packaged and framed. Yeah. And it's easy. I mean, it's like preying upon people who are in like a state of desperation. And that happens not just in the mental health and wellness space, but like in the medical space as well, where you have someone who's like desperately wanting to be free from or get relief from some sort of a symptom that they're having. And you're like, take this or do this course or I have this device that could be really helpful for you. And in that space of desperation of just wanting to find relief from it, it's really easy to go all in on something. And then you find yourself with all these things that you've purchased and you're like, well, okay, nothing's really changed. Like my environment hasn't changed, my mindset or the way that I'm viewing things hasn't changed. It's just not great.
This is sparking some thoughts about some weight loss medication that's really trendy right now. I'm going to not touch it, but I just had to
Yes.
plug that right in there. If that resonates with you in anywhere, if it has you questioning a choice about your life, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Again, I think again, just like the whole concept of like all these things can be tools.
Totally.
Totally. And take a look at your whole life.
Well, and yeah, like root cause it. Like what's the root cause of these things? Like, is this thing like, is this thing actually like, it's, am I treating the condition or am I treating the symptom? Am I pacifying something or am I actually like improving my overall well-being? And like, yes, there are many places where certain weight loss medications, like the one I'm specifically referring to, which like, yeah, a lot of people need that and that's beautiful. And I love that it's changing lives and helping people get back on track with like
Mm-hmm.
being so far in one direction that it's really hard to make progress.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not someone who is really far in that direction and you're using it as a tool, like ask yourself, maybe why?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said,
Yeah, I do think that's a good question to ask is like what's my why behind this? Anytime you're like purchasing something that's like promised to do something for you that's going to get you
a
a
result.
result that you're looking for. Yeah. Why am I doing this? What's my reason or motivation behind this? What's the outcome that I'm looking for? And why am I looking for that specific outcome? And maybe when you go through like the series of questions, you decide like, yeah, this is a good choice for me. Like this thing could be really helpful for me, whatever it is. Or you go through that and you're like, I'm falling into consumerism, or I just am looking for like a way to avoid something in my life. And this seems like a really great option for that. So
Yeah.
just, I guess in sum, both and is a good way to look at this is that, things can be super helpful. Social media, all the tools, all the things that are available out there can be really helpful. And it can be a way to just kind of like over label, over diagnose, over identify with, avoid actually working through. And so use discernment, check into, the things that you're subscribing to, maybe literally accounts that you're subscribing to, but also like thoughts that you're subscribing to and belief systems that you're subscribing to, and see if there's integrity behind it all, and if you truly want to, add that thing to your life.
Absolutely. I love that. And one thing I just feel like I have to say, I'm on a fucking roll this episode, buddy. What? We need to get me out of here. But as you were saying that, I was thinking about like, when you were like talking about like what's your why? Why do you want it? Like what's the result you desire? Okay, once you clarify that, ask yourself, are you willing to put in the work to achieve that result? And if you're not willing to put in the actual work, if you're looking for the magic pill,
Mm-hmm.
then is like, is that something that you truly desire? Or like, what do you think it will give you? What do you think the results are? And, ooh, oh God, should I say this?
Yes, at this point, yes.
Fuck. No, like, do you deserve the outcome? If like, and yeah, I don't mean deserve. That's the wrong word, but like, is this version of you, if you're not willing to put in the hard work to get the result, are you ready for the outcome? Because deserve is not the right word. I backtrack. I'm gonna do that a lot in life, but I digress. No, like, is this version of you actually ready for that? Because I think like if we're willing to put in the work for something, like actually put in the work, then we are ready. We are.
There's a lot of like healing in the process too.
Of the
Like,
work.
yes, and I think a lot of preparation. Something that might feel less like touchy for people is money. So sometimes when people just get overnight tons of money and they're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? And they don't know how to manage it wisely. They blow it. They feel anxious about how much money, like whatever it is, they weren't prepared for all the little steps that like got them there of like, oh, my paycheck's getting a little bigger, or my business is starting to actually like thrive a little bit more. And like the buildup that actually gets you that. So that could be weight loss, that could be mental health, like fill in the blank. But yeah, there's a lot of healing and like preparation that happens in the journey.
Oh my God. Gold. See, yeah, you are way more articulate than
I
me.
get you. I
Yeah,
see you.
thank you. I'm just out here being like, honestly, like, I feel a little mean, this cold, savage. I don't know what the word is, but
No,
I'm just
it's good.
firing on all cylinders, you guys.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean,
Is that a good place to end? I think that's a good place to
I think
end.
it is. I think that like, we've touched on what we want to touch on. And again, like we disclaimed at the beginning, just like circle back to that. All of that's still true. We have nothing but love for everybody and what works best for them. And, these conversations are important. So
They are. And have to make another note. Give us a follow and subscribe to our social media, YouTube, etc. We'll put it in the show notes below. You know the drill. Thank you so much for being here too. And we will see you next week.
yes, thank you guys.